What did I learn? This is what I learned, Sylvia. Identify your ideal client. Write to them, speak to them, market to them, and be in their space whereby they see you as the authority. And if they see you as the authority, you will be the one that gets the phone call.
I'm Sylvia Garibaldi, founder and CEO of a well-established marketing training and done-for-you services company, tailored specifically for the modern legal and financial professional worldwide. While it's taken some trial and error to figure out which methods get the best results for professionals who are looking to grow their practices, fast forward to today, my team and I have nailed down and perfected a process that has helped so many of our clients consistently achieve outstanding results and create a legacy for their practices. I created the Serve First, Sell Later marketing podcast to give you simple, actionable, non-salesy, and results-driven marketing to grow your legal or financial practice like so many of our clients have. If you're a lawyer, mediator, financial, or divorce professional who is looking to become highly visible and wants to create a practice that makes an impact, then you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 110 of the Serve First, Sell Later marketing podcast. I'm your host, Sylvia Garibaldi. Today's episode is a must-hear for lawyers, mediators, coaches, and divorce professionals. I'm speaking with Steve Benmor, a veteran family lawyer, divorce strategist, mediator, and arbitrator, as well as the founder of the Divorce Coaches Association of Ontario. So we dive into how Steve built and marketed his practice, how he shifted from litigation to mediation and arbitration, and why he believes accreditation for divorce coaches is one of the most important developments in our space right now. You're going to walk away with real strategies, fresh perspective, and of course, practical ideas that you can use in your own growth. Let's dive in. Hello, Steve. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm genuinely excited for today's conversation. So for more than 3 decades, you've helped families navigate one of the most difficult transitions in life and, bringing not just the legal aspect to it, but strategy and compassion and clarity to very complex divorce issues. So I want our listeners to know that you are widely recognized as a family lawyer, divorce strategist, mediator, parenting coordinator, and arbitrator. And then in addition to all of that, you're also a speaker, a writer, and an educator. And so your work in helping clients stay out of court and to minimize conflict, to reach those thoughtful resolutions is truly distinguished. And I want to congratulate you for the work that you do. And I also think what's meaningful is, and it's something that I think our listeners are going to want to unpack further, is how your experience in traditional litigation and courtroom litigation evolved into a deeper focus on mediation, arbitration, and the client-supported work that you do. So, and I have to add in here as well that most recently, your leadership in establishing the Divorce Coaches Association of Ontario, which is really shaping a new frontier in how separating families are supported not only in Ontario, but beyond. So thank you for being here today, and it's such an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So before we dive into strategies and lessons learned, I thought we could talk about the start of your professional career. And so you started off in the realm of divorce litigation and kind of moved into mediation and arbitration. So I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about how that path evolved beyond litigation.
I'm nearing my 60th birthday, so I'm going to take you back about 4 decades when, as the child of immigrant parents in Canada, they looked at me and they said, "You, my only son, we want you to be a professional." And in their mind, that was going to be a doctor. And so I went through my young teenage years thinking I was going to be either a doctor or a dentist. And indeed, I went to university with that very objective. While I was in university studying sciences leading towards either medicine or dentistry, I spent my summers selling sunglasses on the streets of downtown Toronto. And I loved it. And what I loved about it, and although I didn't know it then, was I loved the interaction with people. I loved the exchange, the give and take, the learning about a person, and then the ability to actually listen and use what they share with me to provide them with something that they maybe didn't even know they wanted, but I helped them arrive at that understanding of what it was that they wanted. And although it sounds somewhat silly to talk about that when we refer to glasses or sunglasses, really at the essence of it was me recognizing it as a young university student, what I liked and what I didn't want to do. And I didn't want to be in a lifetime where I was either in somebody's mouth doing dental work or only seeing somebody, once every few months as a GP in medicine or as a specialist who doesn't develop a relationship with somebody in medicine. And so that led me to apply to law school. And then while I was in law school, I learned about a lot of different areas of law. And when I graduated, I ended up joining a law firm that did everything. And one of the things that they kept on sending my way was family law work. And at the time, I was a young lawyer. I just did whatever I was told to do. And it took about 5 to 8 years until I actually got my mojo and realized that this was not a job. This wasn't even a career. This was actually a privilege, because when people are going through marital problems, when they have other kinds of problems, they come home to their spouse, to their children. When they have business problems, they come home to their spouse and their children. When they have financial problems, they come home to their spouse and their children. But in family law, the problem is the family life. And so it really undermines the essence of a person's sense of stability and permanence. And when they come to me as a lawyer, I am all of a sudden the person that's helping them at one of the most difficult moments of their life. And I take that very seriously because they are trusting me with this tremendous moment in their life when they themselves are clueless, powerless, uncertain, fearful. And my job is to understand their state of mind when they come to me, and then to offer them a vision of how life can be better at some near point in the future. And so I take that very seriously and try to help people envision a more successful future than the one that they are in right now.
Mm-hmm. So I guess when you made that shift from litigation to mediation, when did you make that shift and why did you make that shift?
It's a question that actually requires a little bit of historical understanding. In the field of law in general, in all Commonwealth countries, from England to Australia to the US to Canada, we have two different kind of models for resolving legal problems. Everybody's heard about commissions, royal commissions, where they study things like, doping in the Olympics. That system is predicated on an inquisitorial model where you hire a person who investigates, who collects information, writes a report, submits it to the government, and the government decides what to do with that information to set new public policy. But in the dispute section, as between people, whether it's between a bank and an employee, or between two corporations, or between a driver who collided into another driver's car, that legal model is called the adversarial model. And the notion behind it is, if A sues B, each A and B will have a lawyer. They will duke it out. And at the end of the day, justice will be served because the outcome will be a just outcome. And then we have used the adversarial model for every kind of person-to-person dispute, which includes family law. And so when a couple splits up, the system in which they live deals with the dispute no different than a dispute between an employer and an employee or between two people that had a car accident. Well, I can tell you, it's a very different type of dispute when two parents are fighting over their children, or they're fighting over issues of support, or who gets to stay in the home, or domestic violence. And yet we live in a world where we are using that tool to resolve their problem. And some have postulated that a divorce is not really a legal problem. It's more of a psychological problem. And so many family lawyers, in fact, many very good family lawyers, are very aware of the fact that we should not be approaching the problem as though it's a legal problem. We should be approaching the problem as a human problem. And so when we talk about the movement from litigation to non-court based solutions, it is a recognition that's taken us hundreds of years to get to realize that the solution to a family in distress is not generally found in a courtroom. It's found in other places with other professionals. And that's where mediation, arbitration, and divorce coaching come in, because a lot of people still think that if I am splitting up, I go to court. And that public knowledge is incorrect. And yet, we are still in the infancy stage of educating the general public that that is not the first step. In fact, it shouldn't be anywhere in the first 100 steps. In other words, the only time that should occur is if every other step has failed. Yet, we still live in a world where people think, well, I'm divorcing, I'm going to file in court. And we have to change that thing.
And the awareness is very low in that there are other options out there, mediation, arbitration. People just have no clue that these services exist. And that's one of the reasons why we do the work that we do at SG and Associates, is to really spread the word about these different options and allow these professionals to really market themselves and grow their practices in that regard. But did you see any shift in how you started to build an audience and start to educate them about mediation and arbitration, like from a marketing perspective for your firm?
Yes. Well, first is a belief in the viability of it. And the greatest source of referrals to spouses going through separation and divorce are lawyers. And if you think about it, when someone hires the lawyer, they've already gone to someone who sees the main tool in their toolbox as being the courtroom. So the first line of attention is educating the legal profession and the judiciary on the utility of a out-of-court process. And we still live in a world right now where when you say to a lawyer, refer this case to mediation, arbitration, it's just not within their comfort zone, because they have been trained and educated to use the court system as the solution or as the source or forum for the solution. So number one is we have to educate the general public in one way and the legal profession in another. So we educate the general public through media campaigns and, quite frankly, through word of mouth. When a spouse who is going through a divorce turns to their friend and says, you know what, we're breaking up. And the friend says, well, guess what? Definitely hire a mediator, or definitely hire a mediator arbitrator, or definitely don't hire a lawyer unless and until every other option has been exhausted. So right away, we want the general public to think a certain way. And then the client going through it is already now primed to look for someone that's going to service them in a way that does not take them to court. And then we got to deal with the reality, which is that most people who are going through separation and divorce hire a lawyer and rely on the lawyer to ascertain what tool in the toolbox to use. So we have to then educate the lawyers on the use of med and med arb.
And how did you do that?
Well, number one, there's just simple media. We have a lot of writing about and speaking about the downside of court and the upside of mediation. I recently wrote an article about lawyers that refer clients to mediation get more clients, because people that go to court are disappointed. And when they're disappointed, they're looking for people to point the finger at. Well, it's really easy to point the finger at the person that referred you to the place where you're disappointed. But if somebody hires a lawyer who refers them to mediation or mediation arbitration, and they resolve their case quickly, cheaply, and fairly, when their friend comes to them and says, what do you think I should do? Because I'm now going through separation divorce. They're going to refer that friend to their lawyer who referred them to mediation and arbitration. So it is a fantastic way to build a positive reputation and entice new business by being the person that brings them to solutions, not to financial and emotional bankruptcy, which is typically what occurs in family court.
I love that perspective. That is so well said. So it's the client experience. If you go through the court experience versus the out of court experience, meaning mediation, it creates a higher level of customer service, if you will. The experience is calmer, you get more done, as you said, cheaper, you're saving time. So looking at that from a client experience, that it's an elevated client experience, but they feel good afterwards. And when they do, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to refer you as the mediator to say, hey, this was a fantastic experience. And so it goes back to your point that it actually brings you more business, which is a really interesting perspective.
And you also have to think about the psyche of the client and the psyche of the lawyer, even before they met each other. The psyche of the client going through separation and divorce didn't learn last night that their marriage was unhealthy. Their marriage may have been unhealthy for years. And it was just recently that a decision was made to now formalize the breakup. So in the period leading up to that date, they've already been dealing with a lot of very mixed feelings, hurt feelings, powerlessness, insecurity, financial fear, worry for the children, wondering how they're going to survive, how they're going to be able to meet the children's needs, how they're going to face the community, their friends, their family. So there's so many feelings that are caught up in that moment. Then they hire a professional. Now let's talk about the psyche of the lawyer. Former Chief Justice George Straffy wrote an article about the image of the lawyer as a gladiator. And some have likened the role of a lawyer to the role of a gladiator. And you don't have to look very far. Pop culture, films do a really good job making the courtroom scene dramatic, theatrical, sensational. You're on the edge of your seat. We don't know what's going to happen next. There's going to be a cross-examination. There's going to be an interruption. The jury is going to smile or frown. This is what makes fantastic screen entertainment. It's not what children and spouses want. They do not want an edge of the seat experience, wondering what's going to happen next. Will I go to the same school? Will the house be sold? Will I be able to afford to live in this community? That is not the wish of the average person who has just been contending with weeks, months, or years of marital discord. But yet they go to the lawyer who is very much trained in the psyche that I've just described of being the vanguard, the advocate, the person that's going to empower them with advocacy and with forceful persuasion. Well, that's one of the disconnects between what somebody needs and what somebody gets. The client will get the lawyer representing them, advocating for them, protecting them. But the venue, whether it's in Med or Med Arb, is a venue where the client gets somebody to look them in the eye and to understand their circumstances and to speak a language that will respect their needs. And every spouse going through separation and divorce is unique. They're not all the same. And in fact, within the same family, the spouses are different. And then within the same group of children of that family, the needs of each child is different. A courtroom is not built for that unique recognition of the individual personalities entering into the space, whereas that's exactly what mediation and MedArb does. It requires the professional to learn who the person is, whereas in court, before the parties even show up to court, the judge has read material. The judge has not formed any experience with the people, and the people have no experience with the judge. So it's a very cold relationship, quite frankly, one that's built on very little interpersonal exchange. And so it's very much the wrong environment to resolve family problems.
And so what I like about what you shared here is that the examples that you've just given are actually the messaging that people would use when marketing a practice for mediation or arbitration, because those are the key benefits that you've just outlined right now. That becomes part of the key marketing messages. So you've been regularly interviewed in media, and I know that you've been presenting for a fair while now, you've been presenting educational content to peers and other partners. So, how do you think being such a visible expert, how do you think that's impacted your brand and the client inquiries coming inbound to your practice?
Well, I think you were the one that said this, and I've learned from you on this one. People hire people who they like, trust, and can connect with. And so the first thing that any professional needs to do is form a reputation, hopefully a good one, and let that reputation stand before them so that when somebody reads an article that I wrote or watches a video that I spoke on or here's a podcast that I'm interviewed on, possibly like this one, the person listening to it resonates with the speaker, in this case, me. And here's the tone, the attitude, the philosophy, the passion about what it is that they do. And then that person who listened may not be the one that requires the service. It might be their colleague at work or their friend or someone that they're sitting next to on the subway. And that way, the information that the listener has is that they like what they heard. They like the person who said it. They like the message. They believe it. They resonate with it. So right away, there's reputation management. Sadly, there are far too many lawyers and some mediators who have developed a reputation for not being a good listener, a reputation for not being compassionate or passionate or kind. So number one is it's important to develop a reputation that matches the needs of the audience. And in the field of family law, unlike, for example, patent law or aerospace or admiralty law, those are all areas of law. But in family law, the client is dealing with emotional distress. The practitioner needs to have a really good handle on how to manage that person's distress. And so the communication needs to somehow convey that the professional has the skill set to be able to deliver what the person needs. That's number one. The other one is you got to have expertise. So it's one thing to be a really nice person or to be a very caring person, all very important. That's not enough. You really have to know your field. You've got to know all areas of family law. And by the way, unlike the other areas of law, family law is one of those that I call an umbrella. In the umbrella of family law, you have to know a lot about a lot of other areas of law. You've got to know about real estate law, trust law, estates law, corporate law, tax law, succession law. So there's a lot that's involved so that when I help somebody, we're fighting over something or the parties are fighting over something, how lovely is it that I can say, I don't know how you're going to solve who's going to get the blank, but guess what? You could spend a lot of money fighting over the blank, or you could take that money and the blank and estate plan around it and make it something that is left for the children. Because at the end of the day, conflict is expensive. And the more you spend on conflict, the less you leave for your children. I often tell people, you can either divide your assets 50-50 or 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Because if you go down the road of conflict, the two spouses will give 1/3 of the overall family wealth to their lawyers. So would you prefer to divide your estate 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 or 50-50? And so if we could reduce the role of the conflict in this and focus more on the solution, even if it's not an excellent, perfect, ideal, scripted solution. And that requires a little bit of psychology, but a lot of expertise in the subject matter, where I could look at an issue and look at the parties and say, as an expert in divorce law, I could see this go your way. I could also see it go his way or her way. Now, you won't know which way it's going to go until you've spent $100,000 or $200,000 taking this in front of a judge for our 2-week trial. Is that what you want? Do you want to know which way it goes? Or could we instead not spend that money and come up with
Right.
another solution in mediation or med-arb?
So, what I'm hearing then is two aspects. One is the personality or bedside manner, if you will, of the lawyer. And then you need to wrap that into expertise and knowledge So when you have both of those things working in your favor, then you have that elevated experience. And then you also have that reputation, which is that of a good one. So those that you've shared with me obviously makes sense that that's going to impact your brand and ultimately impact the number of inquiries coming into your practice that can convert into new business. I like how you shared that because I think that's really important to look at those aspects. Because, yes, you have to be really good at what you do, but you also have to have that manner of dealing with clients and making them feel safe and that they trust you because you are in the business of trust with the work that you do in family law. So I think that's super important. So, what's something that you wish you had known about growing a practice when you first started that you now know?
Oh boy, that's a long list, but let's
Yeah.
choose one because a lot of people think that family law is a specialty practice. And it is one of the many areas of law. But within family law, there are different entry points. There are people that practice family law that only do work with children aid societies, people that have children apprehended. That's a sub niche in family law. Some people have made that their everything. Now, in every part of Canada, there are children's aid societies, some for Catholics, some for Muslims, some for Indigenous. And all of these children's aid societies are involved in investigating complaints of abuse against children. And those parents who are threatened with the apprehension of their child need a lawyer. And so that's a niche area within family law.
Wow.
Another one is fertility and surrogacy. Some people think, well, I'm just going to go to a family law lawyer for that. Well, it's a niche area. So where am I going with this? And I can go on and on and on about this. Like we could talk about high net worth families who have very significant portfolios or family offices where they've got to deal with multi-generational issues. Or you might have people with multiple blended families, two people that were divorced and remarried, and then the second relationship also ends. So now you've got multiple blended family issues. And then there's, the LGBTQ world. Then there's transgender issues. And then there's the role of transgender issues with reproduction. So now we've got reproductive family law. So the list goes on and on. So where am I going with this? What did I learn? This is what I learned, Sylvia. Identify your ideal client. Write to them, speak to them, market to them, and be in their space whereby they see you as the authority. And if they see you as the authority, you will be the one that gets the phone call. But if they see you as a generalist, I'm in this context referring to somebody who says, I do everything in family law. Well, you may not get the phone call for the person that needs a contract for surrogacy or fertility because you're a generalist.
Right.
But the person that only does that, only writes about that, only speaks about that, only gets called to comment on that. And by the way, there's no shortage of media agencies and podcast hosts that are looking for experts in these niche areas because not a day goes by where there isn't some new event in the world where that topic needs to be clarified for public consumption. You asked me about what's one lesson learned. That one lesson amongst many one lessons is identify your ideal client and talk to them.
Right. So I just want to say, hallelujah. Somebody gets it. That's marketing 101 that you've shared. And that's a fundamental that we teach all the time. So when you specialize in a niche, just like you've done, you grow a very profitable practice because you are speaking to one audience as the expert. And I think that that's something that a lot of professionals still don't quite understand. They struggle with it and they feel that if they focus in on just one area or one niche or one type of service or one type of target audience, they feel like they're going to be excluding the rest. And I always say that your marketing proactively should be speaking to your niche and reactively, if you're getting cases that are outside of your niche that you know that you can serve, you don't necessarily have to turn it away because it's an area that you can serve.
Let me one up that one by
Yeah.
saying, when you build a fence around who your ideal client is, and somebody tries to enter into that fenced area who doesn't fit within them, this is a marketing moment, because the reason they came to you is because they trust you. They like you. They want you. They think you are the person that can help them. Well, when you have that call or that email, first of all, that's a compliment. You've done something right. Now, you take that caller, you speak to them, you understand their needs, and then you say to them, I'm going to connect you with the person that I know is going to best help you with that problem. And when you refer that caller or that email to the other person, you are now the connector with that other person and the client. So now you have created two brand ambassadors. One, the person that you just spent time talking to, learning what their needs are and helping them be placed with the right person. That person, that first person, when they go back to their private world, they're going to remember you for two things. One, that you're amazing. And two, that this is what you do. They're going to remember because you're going to explain to them, thank you for checking with me, but I only do this one thing. So now that client remembers the person that they liked, that helped them, that they thought was an expert in all these other areas. This is what they really do well. This is what they're all about. So now you've got one brand ambassador going into the world saying, that's what that guy does. The other brand ambassador is the person that you referred the work to. And the person that you referred the work to will remember you for being the person that referred them work, and they'll remember what it is that you do. So now you've got two brand ambassadors off of that one call.
Yeah.
Now, you do that once a week. You have a sales force that is out there marketing on your behalf, unbeknownst to you.
I love that. Well said. That's an excellent point. And I think, you demonstrate that very well in your business and practice. And that's one of the many reasons why your practice is so successful. So a big part of long-term success in family law and ADR, I think, is the ecosystem that you build around you. So the professionals who refer, collaborate, and trust you. And so which referral partnerships do you think are the most meaningful in growing your business, and why, if you had to choose a couple or just one?
People think that if you are a lawyer or a family lawyer, there is a very clear line to referral sources that you market to. And every day you've got people on LinkedIn connecting. By way of example, real estate agents will try to connect with family law lawyers because they think family law lawyers get cases where people have to sell their home. More financial advisors, they think, well, the couple had one financial advisor, but now they're divorcing. So one of the two spouses is going to need a new one. So I'm going to market to lawyers who are doing divorce. I actually don't think that's true. And I'll tell you why. If you are a family law lawyer, you are helping 100% of society, not a niche area, not a population, not a subpopulation. Why? Because we know that in society, people cohabit as common law and people marry. That's a given. In fact, we know that the vast majority of people are in some form of spousal union after they are adults. Some might be in that relationship for a year, some for 40 years. Some of them might be common law. Some of them might have had 3 or 4 relationships that are each 5 years long. But the bottom line is, family law touches all of society, and therefore you can market to any population and do very well. What do I mean by that? You could be on a board of directors. You could be on a committee for a charity. You could be doing work with homeless shelters. At the end of the day, everybody out there at some point will either be in need of family law advice or be in a circle of a conversation with other people that includes some who require family law advice. So at the end of the day, can you market directly to lawyers, maybe real estate or criminal lawyers? Could you market directly to financial advisors who will likely be told by one of their clients that they're going through a divorce? Yeah, 100% you could do that. But that's been done, and that's being done right now. So the question becomes, well, if I'm going to start marketing and I don't want to market where everybody else is marketing, where am I going to market? And the answer is, number one, what I said a minute ago, is identify your niche and your ideal client. Number two is look where those people reside in the internet, Facebook groups or in LinkedIn groups, and then communicate with them. Now, with respect to referral sources, if you wanted to actually designate a category of persons, then the answer is they are there. And what you want to do when you identify that group, let's just make up a story. Let's call them criminal lawyers. Criminal lawyers who do domestics. Well, criminal lawyers that do domestics, by definition, there is a relationship that just ended. The likelihood that somebody that got charged with domestic violence, they're going to reconcile is very, very low. So any criminal lawyer that does domestic violent work is servicing at least one spouse who is ending a relationship. Well, you're going to market to that category. Should you not be marketing to that category in a geographic location? So right away, we've got geography as a defining factor. Number two, should we be marketing to that category who are mainly representing men? Because that's a different silo and different category. But are there domestics that involve representing women? Yes, smaller, but they exist. So I know in the last 30 years, I've had lots of cases where a woman was charged with a domestic against her husband, removed from the home and needs a lawyer. So there are lawyers that receive those referrals. And then there's, of course, the subject of how am I going to make myself valuable to the criminal lawyer? So simply going to them and saying, hey, I do family law mediation, that's not enough. You're just talking about what you do, but you need to talk about what they do. And then you need to solve their problem. What is their pain point? What would help that person? So for example, maybe co-authoring an article about what do you do in the first 24 hours after you have been charged with a criminal offense and you've been removed from your home, or co-authoring or co-speaking on a topic of how do you immediately activate your relationship with the children if you've just been charged with a crime. Now you and the referral source are connected at the hip as being subject matter experts. You are now building a co-relationship and a co-reputation of being an expert in a subject matter. So you are helping that person build their reputation by co-authoring. So there are many different ways, if you're going to go ahead and identify a particular referral category, of making yourself valuable to them. Because if you make yourself valuable to them, you're advancing their interests, you're answering their why, then their clients will naturally be shared with you.
Yep. Yeah, that makes total sense. I love that. So your work has expanded beyond the practice of law, shaping really how professionals support families through separation. And I think that culminated in your work with the Divorce Coaches Association of Ontario, which is a very, very exciting initiative. So what real world problem did you see that led you to create the Divorce Coaches Association of Ontario?
In the last few years, I realized that many times I was representing people as a lawyer or in mediation, whereby they were so sadly dysregulated. They were just not themselves. They were going through tremendous trauma. And let's not forget, life also occurs when you're going through divorce. So just because you have a divorce doesn't mean your children aren't dealing with ADHD or psychosocial problems or bullying at school. So there are many other things going on in the life of a divorcing person simultaneous with their divorce, causing them to just not be grounded, causing them to be dysregulated. The lawyer's job is not to bring regulation to the dysregulated. The lawyer's job is to give advice, to explain the law, to pursue a resolution. But oftentimes I was finding that I can't break through the outside shell of the client to be able to have that sober, symbiotic communication because they're so distressed. And that's when I started realizing that telling them to go see a therapist was a slap in the face. Some people, when you say you need a therapist or a psychotherapist, they think, why? Because you think I'm mentally ill? Because really what I was trying to say was, I want to help them, but I can't because there's this state of mind right now that is standing in the way. And it's making them either not understand me or it's making them give me the wrong instructions, which I know are counterproductive. So I started using a few years ago divorce coaches. Now, almost everybody knows what a coach is, right? I mean, I don't think any kid in school left school not knowing what a coach is. You've got coaches for football, coaches for figure skating. You've got in business, you've got executive coaches and performance coaches. So people know what a coach is. So when they say to me, well, what does a divorce coach do? I explain to them in very simple terms. They help a person going through divorce achieve their goal. And they help them do so in the fastest, cheapest, easiest way. And they help them soundboard and they help them make choices and they help them keep their eye on the carrot. No different than an Olympic athlete's coach helps them keep their eye on the medal. And so I have found tremendous success helping clients who have divorce coaches. And it has improved the relationship between me and the client, but it most importantly has improved the client's objective and most importantly, the experience of the journey leading to the achievement of the objective, which is an issue unto itself, is their own subjective experience of what they're going through. And so I have referred people to divorce coaches. Divorce coaches have referred people to me because I'm obviously divorce coach friendly. And then after years of this, I realized there's a lot of solos out there who service the world as divorce coaches, but there's no organization that brings them all together. And so I reached out to a lot of divorce coaches that I have worked with that I have a lot of respect for. And we made the decision to build an association, to bring our learning, to bring our tips together, to bring our vision of what the future can be like for somebody going through separation and divorce. And it is my hope that one of the things that I leave in this world before I leave it is a new approach to separation and divorce that causes people to hire a divorce coach who will work with them to help them navigate the journey from beginning to the next chapter of their life, not from the beginning to the end, from the beginning of their divorce to the next chapter of their life, which could be and should be a happy chapter.
Yeah.
And so the divorce coach's job is to help them assemble the team, keep their mind on the carrot, support them through each decision, maybe participate in some meetings here and there, in order to get them to where they want to get to cheaply, fairly, and quickly.
So I think one of the things that stands out for me about the Divorce Coaches Association of Ontario is that it's not just a membership association, right? It offers that pathway to professional standards and training and also accreditation, which is very unique. So my understanding is there is no accreditation for divorce coaches, but now you and your team have actually put something together where anyone who's a divorce coach and wants to be accredited can actually have that accreditation given to them. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's important in differentiating a divorce coach in marketing their business as well.
In any field, we have to have practice standards. If you don't, it's like driving on a highway without any lanes. People will get hurt. So in divorce, when people are going through divorce and they think they're being serviced by somebody, but the person is ill-equipped to service them, that person can cause far more damage to that person that they're servicing if they haven't been trained, educated, and accredited on practice standards and monitored. We lawyers or doctors or architects or even massage therapists are all bound by a code of ethics and practice standards. And so divorce coaches are a fairly new career pathway. And in Ontario and in Canada, there is no governing body for them. And maybe one day there will be. Maybe the government will do for divorce coaches what they've done for lawyers and other professions. But in the interim, we would like to see more people who are working as divorce coaches meet the necessary minimum practice standards, which include education, training, insurance, and ongoing professional development. We want people to know enough to be able to properly serve people. And we want people who are working as divorce coaches to have a place to come to and go, I'm dealing with a very unique situation. What should I do? And by having an association of peers, we are able to brainstorm and work together to help that one divorce coach help that one spouse. So the DCAO is there for many reasons, one of which is to improve the accessibility of the general public to divorce coaches. One of them is to improve the legal profession and the general profession's knowledge of what is divorce coaching and who are qualified divorce coaches. But it's also offering divorce coaches the opportunity to improve their skills and improve their competence. And lastly, also grants people who are thinking about entering into this occupation the opportunity to obtain proper training, education, and ultimately accreditation so that they could service people and the general public can rest assured that they are being helped by someone who does indeed meet the necessary requirements and is doing their job ethically and appropriately.
And I think just elevating the experience as well for people going through divorce, this accreditation body of divorce coaches, it really just helps elevate the divorce journey and experience, which in turn ends up helping all the professionals who engage in the service because the client experience becomes one that people remember. And a lot of professionals want to ensure that their clients going through any of these experiences have a pleasant experience as possible. And you've hit the nail on the head with talking about what divorce coaches do and what this association will help do in the future. And so what we'll do is we'll be sure to put all the links and all the information about DCAO in the show notes. So anyone who's interested in learning more or becoming a member, they'll have all that information. So thank you so much for being on the show today, Steve. It's been an honor. I think your experience, your insight, your wisdom is incredibly valuable. And I know our listeners are going to find it very enlightening to hear your advice and expertise. And of course, just talking about how to elevate an entire profession by creating meaningful standards, accreditation, and community for divorce coaches. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And from one thought leader to another, I myself have obtained significant wisdom and innovative advice from you in terms of how to communicate one's service and product delivery to the general public and to the professional public. So I repeat to you what you said to me. Thank you.